So this is why being a developer in Zimbabwe is hard. So our education system is mainly focused towards three things: find a problem, create a solution for that problem, develop a program that emphasizes that solution, and then you're done. We don't necessarily look at the maintenance part from a theoretical point of view. And so in school, you learn a different array of programming languages: C# in another semester, Java in another, Python in another semester as well, and etc. Many different languages. We don't necessarily look at frameworks or other emerging technologies. And so also we wouldn't be focusing on certain aspects of IT like cybersecurity. How do you secure your system and ensure that your system is secure towards external attacks or unauthorized access? Certain things like that. Database management, etc. We would just be focusing on, I just want to create a solution for this certain problem. Also, system analysis, we don't necessarily look at it from that perspective, because yes, you can be well versed in a programming language, let's say in Java, and it will make you somewhat of a good system analyzer, or so you might think, right? But then again, it's not always that you create solutions for non-existing problems, like from a manual process where people are writing on paper or using paper in their sort of processes. But sometimes you have to create a solution for a problem that's being caused by another system. So that requires more system analysis than it does just you being a developer. In that sort of some of the developers will also be addressing a non-existing problem. But let's be honest, it's not always that you're going to be finding certain processes or certain problems from manual processes. But sometimes we have to be looking at problems from that emanate from certain systems and how you can address that in your own system. So innovation is not always starting from scratch, but it's also starting from somewhere where there are certain problems that need to be addressed from another different system, or not even problems, just that another system needs to be integrated with another system, and then you create a solution for that. And sometimes this makes us go into a deep well where we are just fishing for problems, and sometimes even non-existent problems, whereas your system might even make the current processes more inefficient. We have to be looking at it from many different aspects: security, analysis, database management, etc., just so that you familiarize with all the standards and how you can make your coding even more efficient as it should be. So it's not always about addressing a problem straight from a manual kind of setup, but it's also addressing it from even a system, an existing system kind of setup. And our education system doesn't necessarily allow us to do that, because it allows us to just be innovative, start something new and start something fresh. Salary. One thing I've realized though is that, let's say we all have the same kind of position. Let's say we are all a programmer in our different industries, that we are always going to be paid differently, because in different industries they have different standards, especially in their salaries and etc and things like that. In some industries IT is just a function. In some industries IT is the driving force. So definitely we are going to be paid less. In some areas they're going to be paid less, in some they're going to be paid more. So in a place where IT is just a function, you obviously will not be paid as much, because what they are just looking for is someone who just, fixes their printers and, things like that. In some instances, they don't even need you to develop things that are really out of this world. And you're obviously going to be paid less because of that, because they are just thinking you are just a function. Even if you develop the most outrageous system that talks and that is integrated with electronics and stuff, they don't really care, because what they are just interested in is the simple mechanics of that. But in industries where IT is more of the driving force of that kind of industry or organization which you are at in that industry, definitely you'll be paid more and you'll be paid a significant amount. But then again, it's not even up to standard with like international standards, even not even international like overseas, but just in South Africa, they're obviously going to be paid more than some of us here. So obviously that's going to be hard. And it's obviously going to be hard to get promotions, because there are people who are at the top of the food chain in that kind of industry, 60 years old, 70 years old, and all they want is just you to be like their workhorse and just develop systems, and we are all good, right? So that's obviously going to be a hard thing, especially if you're a developer. If you are looking at that, if like elevating, you're more of elevating in terms of knowledge, but in terms of position, salary, etc., you just need to forget that. And most of these people will not be so well versed with emerging technologies or the latest trends or the latest frameworks that people are using. And so for them, they just want you to, again, develop a system that addresses a problem, and you're good. You don't need to be looking at any other thing, securing, etc. That's your problem. They don't need to be focusing on that. It's your problem. For them, it's more of a case of, I just want this thing to work, and no matter how you make it work, it's fine, but I just want it to work. So your salary will always be stagnant or in the same place for a very long time, especially if you are in just one industry. And you also have a knowledge gap with different other industries as well, etc. But then for people who are in certain industries where you provide more of technological services, or you develop systems for people who come to you and say, no, I want this system developed. Can you develop it for me? And then they say, okay, let's do this, like consultancy, etc. For those people, the one major problem is unstable income. So unstable is basically you get paid in 1 month. In another month, they say, our partners did not pay up this time, so we'll pay you next month. Then the next month they give you half. Then the next month they give you another half. Then things like. So I also worked in that industry, and you have to be prepared for that, because that kind of takes a mental toll on you. Because for you, you'll be developing and thinking, okay, you know what, I'm developing and I'm creating all this cool stuff. And also the company is also going to look at me and say, you know what, let's take care of your life whilst you take care of our work, something like that. But it doesn't always work that way, because sometimes they just don't give you the money that you need at the right time. So you have to be kind of mentally prepared for that. And it's kind of hard in Zimbabwe, because there are many people who are in sort of those industries where you are creating solutions for companies that want those solutions, but it's not always as stable as you might want. In terms of jobs, I actually think there are many jobs out there. However, I would say, especially in Zimbabwe, there are many startups that are out there where they are giving out jobs to developers. And those startups are obviously called Vana Mseama in quotes. But don't say that, because Mseama is in my totem, right? So yes, in those kinds of setups or startups, you'd see that there are many opportunities. You can have many developers that are out there, but obviously you're not going to be paid as much, especially for startups or anamseama, those kinds of companies. I think they're good in terms of allowing you an opportunity to learn. And, in most of these companies that are startups, you express yourself more, because you are allowed to do like things in your own way and kind of develop things in your own way, as opposed to big companies where the job opportunities are very less, and obviously it's going to be harder to kind of get a job in those kinds of industries. In essence, most companies just want you to be an IT person rather than just a specialized developer. Like, I know how to code Java, some things like that. There was an organization where I was once a programmer in quotes, but I would be called to sort of do Excel stuff and, balance this out for me, create this for me in Excel, and things like that. Then I'll be like, that's kind of a function and that can be done even by you, and stuff like that. But don't tell them. So in those kinds of environments, being a programmer is more of a title rather than the actual work that you are doing. So just know that if you're a full stack developer and the industry is not matching to what you think it's supposed to match to, probably what they just mean is you are doing everything, my brother or my sister. You're absolutely doing everything. And obviously, there's a problem where more people want to outsource the work rather than just trusting your local talent, mainly because of corruption. So it means there will be limited job opportunities, obviously, for people who are in the country, whereas they can develop even better products if given the time and the resources than those that would have been outsourced. And so, yes, the market for locally developed software products is essentially pretty low, especially in the high end of the market. If you're at the low end, then yes, people want development and want certain solutions. But however, it's not as lucrative for the developer because, those are the kind of people where maybe they're in the informal sector, etc. And they might want solutions, but they don't necessarily have the money to then be paying out as much money for your software solution. So it's kind of a sticky situation for the developer. And all this leads to is many skilled developers leaving the country, or at least thinking about leaving the country. And all they are looking for is better opportunity and just being recognized for their skill and talents, whereas we are not doing that much in Zimbabwe. Now, obviously, all the points I've made can be arguable, but you can't argue with the fact that definitely being a developer in Zimbabwe is a challenge. So I think organizations and institutions should be looking at incentives to ensure that skilled developers stay in the country, and those who are not as skilled actually learn from those skills whilst in a practical setup, and also learn other facets of IT, not just programming in itself, but also how to analyze systems, how to secure systems, how to manage certain things, etc. And this makes for a better developer community in Zimbabwe. Tell me your thoughts down in the comments below.